Good morning, everybody. Hello, welcome back to Brands Hatch. What is definitely a weekend to remember. Now, a little bit later, once again, we go back into the night. However, before we do that, as you can see, we're down here with the silhouettes. It's almost time for race one, and I can't help but feeling like I've just walked onto the set of a Fast and Furious movie. I don't know about you. Of course, other car-related action films are available as well. Now, let's get to the small matter of the racing action. Of course, qualifying, it's this man, Danny Hunt. He's on pole position. If you wonder, it says Ricky Hunt on the side. It's his dad's car, but it is definitely Danny in the car. Dan, how you doing? You all right?
Yeah, good, mate. Good.
Now, qualifying this morning, it was very difficult out there, wasn't it? Very, very slippy. You guys were the first people out there, and it was wet, wasn't it, really?
Yeah, the team obviously made a great decision, obviously putting us on wets, and just had to take it easy for the first few laps, get a bit of heat in the brakes and get the heat in the tyres, and then it just sort of come good, really. So we managed to get pole, which was nice.
Fantastic stuff. Now, you've got the Fiesta livery on this. How wide are these side skirts? They're incredible, aren't they?
They are wide. I think it's one of them things, like it's like Marmite, you either like it or you hate it. But I think it's very much like the rallycross car.
Yeah.
I think it looks the nuts.
They look incredible, don't they? Look, best of luck for the race.
Thank you very much.
Dan, thanks for talking to us. Let's keep moving around. We've got Pat Keeler. He lines up second place. Let's go have a quick word with him. Pat, how are we doing, buddy? You all right?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you.
Now, just talking about qualifying, you didn't really want to go out first, did you, this morning? It looked quite treacherous.
I know. I think we was a bit lucky with the tyre choice. There was a few of them skating out there, but it's nice to be up the front in the mix with everyone.
Exactly. You're going to stay at the front.
Listen, that's the only place we're going.
Can you go one place better?
Exactly. Yeah.
Definitely.
So fingers crossed.
Definitely. Best of luck. Thanks for talking to us, Pat. Thanks for taking his netting down there. We appreciate that. We've got Malcolm Blackman here as well. Lines up third. Let's go say hello. Sorry, buddy. There you go.
The way.
No, never. Don't you worry about that. Malcolm, how are we doing? It's good to see you again.
Hey, mate, you alright?
I'm very well. Are you ready? Are you ready for this one?
Yeah, I'm going to enjoy it, yeah.
It's the last weekend of the season, isn't it, for the silhouettes? So, does the mentality change a little bit when it's the last weekend of the season?
No, but we all want to do good on the last one because everyone remembers it.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, we want to do good, but obviously the conditions, it's if you're going to pick the right tyres, do you go early or...
Yeah.
These cars tend to overheat the tyres, so yeah.
Fantastic. Like the whistle just blown a bit, let you go. There we go. The cars, as you can hear, are now firing themselves up. It's time for race one of the silhouette. So I'm going to get out of the way and pass over to commentator Andy to take you through the action.
Thank you, Ian. Just about getting out of the way in time then, as the cars are indeed about to head out onto the circuit. Welcome everybody then to day two of this BARC live race weekend here from the Brands Hatch Indy Circuit, the final live event of the season for the BARC, and what a brilliant venue, what a brilliant event to be a part of. The Brands Hatch Indy Circuit then, that's been around for nearly 100 years now. It's always looked fairly similar, although originally was running at reverse direction, of course, back in the very, very early days. These days though, the 1.2 mile circuit is one of the most popular in the country for both drivers and spectators. If you come and watch trackside, you can see pretty much the entire circuit from almost any given vantage point. You may today though have a little bit of inclement weather to deal with. There is rain in the air. As you can see, the track is still damp after some early morning rain, and it ain't that warm, and it's not going to get any warmer really as we move deeper into the afternoon. 13 degrees at the moment. Thankfully not too much wind, but that means that if we do get any rain, it's likely to linger for quite some time. For the time being though, it looks as though the sky is perhaps clearing as we get ready to go into our first race of the day. This is how the day looks then. We start with this 15-minute first race for the Avon Tyres Intermarque silhouettes. Then we're into the Ginetta Junior Winter Series. They had their first two races yesterday. They have their final two races today, which will decide the winner of the Ginetta Junior Winter Championship. The Dunlop Mini Winter Challenge is a very similar event for the Mini Miglias and 7s. They're up at 1:05 with the BMR Super Saloons and the Classic and Modern Motorsport Club TinTops out at 1:40 for their first of two 15-minute races. The Intermarque silhouettes are back out at 20:03, followed by that final race for the Ginetta Junior Winter Series at 10:03, and likewise straight after that the Mini Winter Challenge back out again for their final race of the season at 20:04. That is not it though, we still have racing coming after that, because as we then move towards the very end of the day, as Ian said, we will go into the night racing element of the day with that second Brit Car Endurance Championship Trophy category race of the weekend. Yesterday's night race was certainly dramatic, and tonight's, we hope, will be equally as entertaining. Here then is how they line up on the grid for our first race of the day, the Avon Tyres Intermarque silhouettes. They qualified on a wet track this morning, and as we heard, tyre choice and setup was key in who ended up at the front. It was Danny Hunn in that Ford Fiesta that has the pole position, followed then by a swarm of Vauxhall Tigras, Pat Keeley alongside him, and then 4 times winner this year, Malcolm Blackman, heads the second row alongside Steve Burrows, who himself got a race victory a little bit earlier on this season, also here at Brands Hatch. Row 3 then for Tom Hutchins and Dave York. They've been on the podium this season on a couple of occasions, ahead of Chris Ayling and Lewis Smith, former VW Cup runner, on the 4th row. Philip Young and John Stewart are together on row 5. Then Ray Harris. Now, Ray had some issues in qualifying earlier on today. Didn't complete as many laps as everybody else. Ray actually has more race wins this year than any other driver, with 5 victories, but starts all the way down on 11th on the grid alongside Colin Smith, who also got a race victory back at the Linden Hill season opener. Then it's Ruben Taylor and Danny Smith on the 7th row. John Price and Philip Spinks on row 8, with Mick Robertson, Nigel Beardsmore and Warren Forresman at the back of the grid. So that's how the 19-car grid lines up, with Forresman, as we said, at the back of the grid. Now, the different colours there on the graphics, there are 2 classes of driver, but the cars are all running to the same set of regulations. The only difference in the classes is simply the age of the driver. We have the Senior Cup, which is a class within the Intermarque Silhouettes series, and that is for over 45. So Chris Ayling, who starts 7th on the grid, is the highest qualifying of the senior drivers in this race. So a 2x2 rolling start then will get us underway here on the Brands Hatch Indy Circuit. How wet is it? How little grip is there as they make their way through the first few corners? We are about to find out, because the safety car pulls into the pit lane, and Danny Hood and Pat Keeley will face the red lights. When they go out, we'll be away and racing for 15 minutes then here this afternoon on the Brands Hatch Indy Circuit, the penultimate race of the season for the Avon Tyres Intermarque Silhouettes. On the left is the Ford, on the right is the Tigra, who will get the jump into Paddock Hill Bend. It looks like the Tigra gets his nose ahead, but they're pretty level. They're going to go 4 wide, are they? No, surely not. Malcolm Blackman in the red Tigra tried to go to the inside and sensibly backed out of it. Side by side through the first turn then. They're still side by side as they come out of Paddock Hill Bend. The Corrado there at the back of the field of Mick Robertson, having lost some places, but it still looks like a side-by-side rolling start, even as they arrive at the second turn at Druids. No one really managing to pull clear. Now, finally, the pole sitter, Danny Hunn, holds the advantage, but at the inside of him goes Pat Keeley into Graham Hill Bend. They're side-by-side, bit of rubbing as they come off the corner, and once again, they are level, heading down the Cooper Straight. Bit sideways there for the 175, that's John Stewart. Finally, we have a lead change, and in fact, that is, which of the Tigras is that? What's happened to Pat Keeley then? Because Pat Keeley seems to have vanished. It's the 91 of Blackman that's got the lead. Hood is second, and Keeley is still there, but down in third. So Keeley, who was challenging for the lead through the first half of the lap, actually will end it in a third position. A couple of cars getting sideways further back, but it is the red and white Tigra of Malcolm Blackman that leads the first lap of the day here at Brands Hatch. Side by side a bit further back there as well, as the 16 that was, if Steve Burrows tries to go around the outside into Paddock. I don't think that's quite going to work. That is for 5th position. No, it will work. He goes right round the outside of Dave York and manages to pick up that place. Then it's the Ginetta of Ray Harris. Now that blue number 5 car is the one to watch really, because Ray Harris started only 11th on the grid, but he is the winningest driver this season, so we know that he was always likely to pick up some places, and he is already starting to do that, because Harris picking up 3 spots on the opening lap. There he is, look, the Ginetta G40 silhouette, which is absolutely flying now that it seems to have got its mechanical gremlin sorted. So top 3 then pulling away slightly as they make their way through clearways. There is Pat Keeley, who started on the outside of row 1, and now Ray Harris is up the inside of the 196. It doesn't quite work though. Dave York fends him off, and actually coming off the turn, it is going to be the 490 car that Danny Smith that gets alongside him. So the Ginetta might actually end up losing a position now as they make their way towards Paddock Hill Bend again. Let's see the gold Tigra trying to go around the outside. The leader though is Malcolm Blackman, no doubt about that. Malcolm Blackman, who missed the opening round of the season at Linden Hill, but then subsequently took 3 victories across the next couple of meetings. Also had a win at Silverstone later on in the season, but he's also had a host of DNFs as Blackman this season, 4 in total, all of them coming in the second half of the year, so we'll be hoping he's got those sorted out before this final pair of races of the year. sideways there. That was York, wasn't it, getting sideways out of Graham Hill Bend, but actually still gets the power down pretty well and manages to pick up a place. So York in the Tigra moves into fourth. Or does he? Oh, there's contact this sideways. Off. There's a car off. No, surely they just about kept it on the road. That was very, very close to disaster. A little bit of contact there as Dave York went through on the Mercedes, that was, of Lewis Smith. The white Mercedes that I thought had exited stage right actually manages to save it and hold on to, or loses just the one position. Ginetta comes through there of Harris. He's picked up another couple of places now. He does get past the 490 of Danny Smith. They both cleared the number 16 of Steve Burrows. Steve Burrows in that blue Tigra started fourth on the grid. He's now starting to try and fight back again though. Goes to the inside of Danny Smith and he will reclaim that 7th position at least as they go through Druids Corner, but that's not really what he would have been hoping for in this race. Steve Burrows, who took his one and only victory of the season at Brands Hatch at first of, this is now the 3rd appearance at Brands Hatch for the A1 Tyres Intermarque Silhouettes. He's struggling to hang on to this position, isn't he? Because back up the inside of him goes Danny Smith. Not quite going to make it work though into Surtees Corner. You can see the way they're sliding around here on this damp track. Now, tyre choice would have been very interesting for this. I would have liked to have known maybe who was on what tyres, because they do traditionally run on a slick tyre. We heard Danny Hunt alluding to this in the assembly area, that they went on wets, the quick drivers in quali, but is it dry enough now for the slicks? I think it might be. I reckon these wet tyres that most of them seem to be on might start to overheat as we move into the second half of the race. Already we're seeing cars sliding around more now than they were on the opening lap or so, so just sort of support that theory a little bit, doesn't it? So Malcolm Blackman then leads by 1 second. He's just set the fastest lap of the race, 57.872. It is also to Danny Hunt in second place. There they go, the yellow and red Ford chasing after the red Tigra. Then it's Pat Keeley third. Fourth place, the silver Tigra there of Dave York. Fifth is the white Mercedes of Lewis Smith. And sixth for Ray Harris in the sort of teal Ginetta. So... oh, no, well, he's going to be fifth now because off goes Lewis Smith into the gravel trap. So I was about to say he was starting to apply some pressure to the Mercedes. The pressure has told, hasn't it? Because the Mercedes has beached itself in the gravel up at Clearways Corner, and that could be a dangerous enough position to lead to a safety car here. The marshals are scrambling to go and help him out. Lewis is climbing out of the car. He knows he's going to dig his way out of there in a hurry, and that will be his race done, sadly, Lewis Smith. He's had a fairly decent season, has Lewis, up until this point in the Mercedes, 24 Mercedes. Yet to win a race, but he's had one podium and a couple of top 5 finishes, but hasn't raced in all of the rounds. Sadly, it's going to be another non-finish this time for him. As now the safety car is being scrambled, so the race will be neutralised as the two Peugeot silhouetted cars here do battle, or they were at least before the safety car came out. That's the fight for 13th place, number 49 Ruben Taylor in the black and yellow Peugeot, just ahead of the blue and white one, which is the Warren Farrisman car that started at the very back of the grid. So he's made up some good progress actually, started 19th and crossed the line 14th that time. Safety car though is about to head out on circuit, and there it is, the BMW safety car, which dispatches itself not from the pit lane exit but from the back entrance to the inner paddock halfway down the Cooper Straight. So it actually joins the circuit halfway round the lap rather than, as would be normal for a safety car, the pit straight. So it means the leader, who is Malcolm Blackman, has to coast around the first couple of corners, first 3 corners of the lap before he actually gets picked up by the safety car. Can make it tricky sometimes to pick up the right car, but I like to think after just 6 minutes of racing they should be able to find Malcolm Blackman, and it looks like they have. So the BMW will pick up the 4-time race winner, Malcolm Blackman, in the very rapid Vauxhall Tigra. So Blackman leads the way, Hunt second, Keeley third, fourth York, fifth Harris, he picked place after that. Danny Smith also got himself back ahead of Steve Burrows for 6th position that time around. So 6th for the 490 car, 7th is the number 16, 8th is number 491, which is Colin Smith, also a winner back at Linden Hill, as I said. Had a really good season opener actually at Linden, did Colin Smith, a win and a 2nd place, but hasn't really been able to quite recreate that as the season's gone on. You've got 9th position for number 21 Philip Young, which is where he started, and rounding out the top 10, number 14 Philip Spinks. So you can see there on the Cooper Straight there is a distinctive dry racing line, but offline it is still pretty damp, isn't it? So it is going to be treacherous, I think, to go off that racing line. But of course, to do any overtaking, that is something that you're going to have to do. You're going to have to deviate from that drier line to find a way past the cars ahead of you. So I think that's why we've seen some people, after the first lap or so have been completed, struggling a little to gain the same number of positions. Lewis Smith, unfortunately, going no further. The JCB pulls into position to drag the Mercedes out. I don't think there's any damage done to the car, maybe a bit of damage to the front bodywork as it's slid sideways through the gravel trap, but the gravel did its job, and the car, despite leaving the circuit at high speed, managed to stop long before the barriers. But for Lewis Smith, that will be his 7th non-finish of the season. Lewis got that podium in the first race at Liddon Hill, but then didn't finish the second race, didn't race at the first Brands Hatch event of the year. He did choose to race at Mallory Park, but had a non-finish in race 1, which stopped him then taking the start in race 2. And then finally, when they came here to Brands Hatch for a second time this season for the American Speed Fest, the Euro NASCAR event, which they were supporting, it looked as though Lewis's season was turning back around a bit with the 4th place in race 1, but then a non-finish in race 2 kicked off a trio of non-finishes in a row, because when the series headed to Cadwell Park later in the summer, Lewis also failed to finish both of the races. He missed Silverstone, came back to Snetterton, where he got a 6th, and you guessed it, another non-finish. So Lewis Smith is yet to actually finish both races in any given weekend, and sadly this last extra couple of races that have been added into the season is going to be exactly the same story for him. This was not originally on the calendar for the Avon Tyres Intermarque series, but they managed to put this event on at the end of the year, adding them to this Brit Car Into the Night weekend, and we're very happy that they did, because they always produce good racing, these cars. Many of the drivers have been racing in the series for an awfully long time. It's essentially, the cars are national hot rods which have been converted to race on the big circuits. Many of the drivers have a background in national hot rod racing and short oval racing here in the UK, and have had success there, and then they come over to the Intermarque silhouettes, and they enjoy it so much that they stick around. I mean, people like Malcolm Blackman and Lewis Smith, they've been racing in the series for many a year now, and the cars haven't really changed all that much throughout the years. A couple of new silhouette shapes may be appearing as the years have gone on. Certainly this Ford Autocross Fiesta ST has been new, a car that I've not seen until this season. We've had 2 of them racing actually. Simon Smith also raced one at Brands Hatch back in the earlier part of the season, but now Danny Hunn has been documented racing his father Ricky's car for this final race, pair of races of the year, and doing a pretty good job as well, because he's although not leading at the moment, he is still running in strong 2nd place, and this safety car of course will allow him to close in a little bit on Malcolm Blackman ahead. Blackman had a gap of about a second or so when the safety car was scrambled. That will now disappear, and we'll have a little bit of defending to do once the race gets back underway. So the cars make their way into Graham Hill Bend. The Mercedes bodied car is dragged out of the gravel. It doesn't have a Mercedes engine in it. There are 3 engines permitted within the series. A 2-litre 16-valve Vauxhall engine, 2-litre 16-valve Ford Zetec engine, or a Ford Duratec engine, and all of them producing roughly the same level of power. So the engines, and indeed the cars on the whole underneath the body kits, are very similar, if not near identical, but the silhouette body that is then applied to the car, of course, is what gives them the great amount of variety. There are a lot of Vauxhall Tigras, but we do have the handful of Mercedes, a couple of Peugeots racing here, the Mitsubishi Colt, the VW Corrado as well, the Ginetta. So there are, you can put pretty much any silhouette that you want really on these cars. We've had a couple of Mazda RX-8 silhouetted cars as well that have raced with us, the likes of Tom Hutchins, for example. And in fact, Tom isn't racing with us. So yes, he is here, but he's in he's in the Mazda RX-8, isn't he? So how's Tom getting on then? Tom Hutchins is running in... he's not running in the race, which is unfortunate. So he qualified, did Hutchins, in the 129 car, but doesn't appear to have taken the start, which is why I was getting confused. I didn't think I'd seen the Mazda out on track, and indeed I hadn't. So we were supposed to have 19 starters, we only ended up with 18, and finally, near the end of the race, I figured out why. Speaking of which, we are getting close to the end of the race. It's only a 15-minute race, this, of course, and this safety car really eating into this time. 2.5 minutes to go. Now, we should be able to go racing this time, as far as I can tell. The Mercedes of Lewis Smith, I'm pretty sure, is well out of the way now. So if they get a move on, a fast lap around here is just under a minute. So we should get 2 more laps of racing in, I suspect, once the safety car heads into the pit lane, hopefully at the end of this lap of the 1.2 mile Brands Hatch Indy circuit. So Malcolm Blackman isn't going to have too much defensive work to do to keep the Ford Fiesta behind. Danny Hunt would very much like to get himself back ahead of Blackman, get that first victory of the year. As we said, it's his father Ricky's car. Ricky has been racing it on and off throughout the season. Or in fact, he did the first half of the season, got a best result of 13th in it. So Danny already looks likely to better that as long as he gets to the end in one piece, because he's run second at the moment. And he's about to try and challenge for the race lead, because there the Mercedes is now out of the way pretty much. The lights are out on the BMW safety car. We're going racing again this time. A 2-lap shootout for victory then in race number 1 of the day for the Avon Tyres Intermarque Silhouette Series. The red, white and yellow Vauxhall Tigra number 91 of Malcolm Blackman leads the way, with that yellow and red Ford Fiesta ST Autocross behind with 39 of Danny Hunn, who is staying right behind him. Hunn creeping up to the back of the Tigra, which is leaving it very, very late to accelerate. Now it goes, but gets a bit of wheel spin, so not the best restart in the world that from Malcolm Blackman, but he's still away slightly quicker than Hunn behind him, and they both really pulled a gap on the rest of the field. There's a side-by-side battle already for 5th. He can't overtake before the start-finish line though, and that means that Steve Burrows has to lift off the throttle slightly. He's allowed to overlap with the Ginetta of Ray Harris. He just can't beat it to the line, which he didn't. He managed to back off by a 10th or so. Did Burrows managed to get himself ahead of the Ginetta? The answer is yes. He's up the inside at Druids. The Ginetta tries to fight back on the outside line, but the Ginetta will slip down into 6th position. So these two, who've been toing and throwing all race really, have swapped over again already straight after the restart. Down into Graham Hill Bend, the leaders pretty close. They're pairing off a bit, aren't they really? 2 for first, 2 for third, and then side by side again for 5th as Ray Harris now comes back at Steve Burrows along the Cooper Straight. He's on the inside into Surtees. That's never going to work though. Now the gold Tigra of Danny Smith tries to find some traction around the outside, but he can't quite buy himself a ticket to the inside line into Clearways. Out of the final corner, and it's side by side for the race lead, because Danny Hunt has found the grippier side of the road. He goes right around the outside of Malcolm Blackman. They're wheel to wheel, but the Tigra just seems to have a slight edge in a straight line. It's a much smaller body kit on that Tigra, and aerodynamically speaking, that should help it in a straight line. The Ford might be a bit more stable, a bit more grippy through the corners, but there's a lot more drag down that pit straight, and it meant that even though Hunt was so much quicker off the final corner than Blackman, he couldn't quite beat him to the line. Side by side there for 3rd as well, the grey Tigra of Dave York, trying to get to the outside of Pat Keeley, couldn't quite do it through the right-hander. They're both being caught now by Steve Burrows in that dark blue and grey Tigra, but the leaders couldn't be a lot closer now as they go down the bottom straight and into Surtees. Just a couple of corners still to go then. The checkered flag will be waiting to greet them at the end of this lap, and this is where Hunt was quick a lap ago. He's going to try and do the same thing again. He sends it to the outside. There is more grip on the outside in the wet than there is on the inside, but then he sells the dummy, gets back to the inside of the Tigra. They're side by side off the final corner, but the Tigra should have the straight line speed advantage. I reckon he's going to beat the Fiesta to the line by maybe a car length or so. Malcolm Blackman agrees with me because he's already celebrating long before he can take to the checkered flag. He finally does, and Blackman wins with actually Danny Hunt very nearly losing 2nd place even on the line there to Pat Keeley and Dave York. Those three separated by only a couple of tenths of a second at the flag, and then in 5th position Steve Burrows set the fastest lap of the race on the final lap. In fact, the majority of the cars, including all of the top 6 cars there, setting their personal best laps on the last lap. So track conditions clearly are improving out there, and of course they'd all had a chance to cool their tyres down as well behind the safety car. Well, that was a suitably exciting start to the day. Malcolm Blackman victorious, Danny Hunt in 2nd position, and Pat Keeley coming home in 3rd, having spent most of that final lap defending his 3rd place from Dave York, and then actually on the run to the line almost getting himself ahead of the Ford Autocross Fiesta of Hunt ahead of him. So Blackman from Hunt from Keeley the top 3, York in 4th, Burrows in 5th. 6th position goes the way of Ray Harris from 11th, not a bad recovery drive that, having had those issues in qualifying. Then it was Danny Smith ahead of the 491 of Colin Smith, who was 8th position. 9th place was our winning Senior Cup driver, and that was Philip Spinks, who finished 9th overall, and rounding out the top 10, Nigel Beardsmore. Then it was Mick Robertson in 11th. 12th position for the Mitsubishi Colt, that was number 21 of Philip Young. and then 13th place for Warren Farrisman, 14th for Taylor, 15th Stewart, 17th Ailing, and rounding out the runners, in fact not rounding out the runners because he was an on-finisher, was Lewis Smith, the cause of that early safety car. So a shame that race was truncated because of that lengthy safety car period, but the racing before and after that was very, very exciting indeed. And it's Malcolm Blackman who comes home victorious at the end of it, and he's going to be heading down into Parc Fermé now, along with hopefully Danny Hunn and Pat Keeley. Down there to get all of the reaction from our first race of the day, as he will be all day long, is Ian Waterhouse.
Wow, how exciting was that, and what a finish, but the power just to get over the line there was quite something, wasn't it? Let's go grab a quick word with Malcolm.
Are you weighing it? You weighing it?
No, we're just checking tyres.
Okay.
Malcolm, just before you go there, my word, that was quite entertaining for us, wasn't it? Did you think he might have had you right at the end there?
No, to be honest, we had so much drive down here to the home, so it didn't even matter if he was in front of me coming out of there, because on the slicks, on the dry line, it's completely two different sides, so yeah.
I was going to say, coming around clearways, a lot of the time, a lot of cars were twitching about, and you were as well quite a bit up there. What was it like?
It's different. Some of them on wets, like Danny was on wet, so that part of the track he's really fast, this part of the track he really struggles. So that's all the difference. It isn't a pace difference or driving better in them corners. We're just different pick of choice of tyres.
Do you know, I have a habit of talking to you in Parc Fermé, don't I, in the winners' row? Congratulations anyway, Malcolm. Let's go grab a quick word with Dan as well. Just not quite enough power on the straights, was it?
Yeah, I think the certain parts of the track was sort of dry really, and Malcolm had the edge, and then through this back section here, like through 30s and McLaren and clearways, I had the edge.
You took the wider line, didn't you, up clearways?
So I was on wet. I think Malcolm was probably he's on wet as well. And I took a much better line through clearways. But listen, I enjoyed it in the day.
It was great to watch.
I'm not running for anything. It's just a bit of fun that was to me. So I enjoyed it.
You go with a nice trophy, and of course you've got to do it all again later as well. Well done. Cheers. Pat, there you go. You were kind of by yourself a little bit there, weren't you? A little bit.
I couldn't get any drive up the top of clearways. It was just wheel spinning the whole way down. It was like changing up, and it was just completely.
Did you just say first podium? Did you just say
first podium?
First podium. What a way to do it as well, because not under too much pressure, but you just never know what goes ahead when they're battling in front, do you?
No, with them two as well. I nearly got him over the line, over the start-finish line, but that's good. Happy
Big
days.
smile. Congratulations,
Cheers,
buddy. Well done. Got to do it all again later. Back-to-back podiums, please. There you go. Right, it's now time for the next race as well, so I'm going to hand over to Andy to tell you what's coming up next.